There's so much AI or Gen AI out there, and they get so overwhelmed they do paralysis by analysis and don't do anything.
Be customer obsessed. It takes a lot of customer obsession to deliver a great customer experience.
So if you could solve one issue with like a snap of a finger, what would it be?
Let's make the world return to peace.
Welcome back to Raw AI Solutions, the podcast where we explore how business leaders are navigating the fast-moving world of AI and digital transformation. I'm your host, Denise Powell, and today we are joined by Zhihao Zhao, co-founder and CEO of Genia. It's a company redefining how buildings are designed and now leads one of the fastest thinking companies in structural technology. So, Zhihao, welcome. We're delighted to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent. Zhihao, I was wondering if you kick us off just by telling us a little bit about yourself and your company.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have my background in AI and product management. I specialize in launching new tech into new markets. I built the world's first mixed reality smart glasses for consumers back in 2017. Years before Apple started working on their Vision Pro. Later, I joined Amazon, led their product management and growth team for 4.5 years before moving on my co-founders and co-founding Genia. What we're currently working on at Genia is we're trying to leverage the power of generative AI to help structural engineers, which is a subdiscipline within civil engineering. We support structural engineers design permanently drawing with generative AI much faster, typically 10 times faster. And by using Gen AI to explore multiple design solutions, we essentially search for the optimal design options, and that will typically lead to 40% reduction in human error in the design, as well as 10 to 20% material savings in the plan that we recommend. So we're currently supporting structural engineers in US, Canada, and we're rolling the solution out to Singapore, also into Europe as well. So happy to be introducing more about what we're currently building and also some of the observations that we're seeing in the market.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that with us. Tell us about your journey. How did you end up forming Genia?
I actually grew up in a construction family. My dad is a geotech. Growing up myself in my childhood, I got a lot of chance observing him running his own firm. The challenges around geotech was very manual or repetitive engineering design tasks. Later, one of my co-founder, Robin Lee, he's also a structural engineer himself. He used to work at Arab and design a whole bunch of hundreds of residential commercial properties in Canada. So, when me and Robin sat down together, described the whole engineering design process, from his own experience, it seems like a lot of the pain points that he and my dad are facing are quite similar. So we're just brainstorming of how to solve problems, and we realized the emergence of generative AI is actually a very facilitating force to add efficiency to a very traditional industry. So that's essentially what gave birth to the original or the ideation of Genia in the first place.
That's fantastic. That's brilliant. And I think pain points are what brings us to the next topic, really. So let's dive into today's heart of today's conversation. It's the top 3 mistakes that ruin companies when it comes to massive change, especially when innovation, speed, and AI are part of the equation. So one common mistake in digital change is assuming the value is obvious to everybody. But in your experience at Genia, what's been unexpectedly hard about getting your message to resonate with the right decision maker?
I think in our case, the pain point is so obvious. Like we never really find ourselves in any occasion that we have to explain why structural engineers need an automation tool. That just by itself is a very obvious pain point for structural engineers who have been working in this field. However, what we have learned over the past couple of months is that it's really one thing that you can generate certain designs and run the calculations correctly, but it's really another to convince structural engineers that your solution is working correctly. So the gap between the two is so large that you have to build a certain layer of features that are purely for earning trust. So allow me to elaborate a little bit more on that, because in the field, structural engineers are working. They have to stamp the drawings, the design, and by stamping the drawings, there's a certain legal liabilities behind it. So you can certainly that we support structural engineers is that we leverage generative AI to explore hundreds to thousands of different layout options. And for each one of the layout option, we run it through a detailed structural analysis in the same fashion as a structural engineer would have done, right? So I think naturally, when we first designed the product, it was quite natural to just build an upload and downloading portal to let structural engineers leverage the power of generative AI, right? but it just didn't work like that. Like structural engineers were questioning the quality of the design because they didn't really see enough transparency of how these designs were come up with, right? So in light of that, we build a whole bunch of features that are explaining, the design rationale why AI thinks the layout should be done this way. We also incorporate the structural analysis and output a calculation sheets that are 100 pages long to explain why what we're designing is indeed structurally valid and compliant to building codes. And also, we've released a lot of case studies. A lot of them are just side-by-side comparisons between what a PE would have done manually or, some of the canonical examples in the building codes. That's exactly what it takes to convince a structural engineer of the already intelligent solution, but the earning trust piece is so important that a lot of people tend to miss at the very first attempt. So
that's absolutely brilliant, because you can actually prove measurably how much time you're going to save them and cost you're going to be saving them in terms of the work that it's doing instead of the instructional engineer itself. Have you found that an easy thing to sell to businesses when they finally understand it? And
yeah, exactly. I think the value proposition is pretty solid as long as you can prove that you're generating a very working or a valid design. That premise is where a lot of our pre-sales discussion is actually taking place. So hence we're doing a lot of the features that are geared towards earning people's trust. But once we get to that stage, the measuring impact is quite obvious, because you can quantitatively measure how much time people are spending before and after, once they migrate their workflow to our platform. The quantity impact when it comes to time saving is so measurable. So we don't really have to convince people about it. The other aspect is a lot of these structural engineers, they're understaffed. So oftentimes they'll have to say no to a lot of project intakes. So by using our platform, they'll be able to say a lot more yes to project requests. So that sense of feeling is more tangible to the head of the firm, because they're the ones doing all the BD work. So this just psychologically also very appealing in that regard.
That's brilliant. I love that. I love the thing about adding value. Do you have any statistics that you can share with any of those structural engineering companies that are listening right now?
We typically help structural engineers design the drawing 10 times faster. Obviously, it varies by the scale of projects. For larger projects, it can take months to complete. We typically generate the design within a couple of minutes, and then literally, oftentimes people, a senior engineer will just spend a couple of hours review the design and make edits on top of it, and that's how they arrive at a permanent drawing. So typically, it's just at least 10 times faster than a human-led process. We also typically save up to 20% material reduction by using our platform. The way that we can save those materials is that we are able to explore as many layout options as possible. We leverage the creativity of Genia to explore hundreds to thousands of different layout options. When a human engineer will drive the design process, they'll at best can consider 2 to 3 design options, because the process of evaluating each one of the design options is so tedious and so lengthy that they cannot afford running too much analysis on multiple design options. But by leveraging the power of Genia and also the power of computational power, we're able to analyze multiple hundreds of design options in the same fashion as a human engineer would have done. So that's how we are able to achieve an optimal design solution as compared to what a human engineer would have done otherwise.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fascinating. One of the key things that I'm finding in all these podcasts is what a lot of business owners or CEOs are finding is that there's so much AI or Gen AI out there, they don't actually know what the art of the possible is, and they get so overwhelmed that either one, they do analysis or paralysis by analysis and don't do anything, or they're really scared to start adopting it, or they adopt it in the wrong way, not responsibly, because people go, oh, it's the next shiny tool, let's just get it on board, and they don't realize the potential consequences. And so when you start using it, it's good to be done responsibly. And that's why it's so good to reach out to third-party agents like yourselves, who have done all the research in that and can come in and go, right, this is what you want to do. Here's the art of the possible. And we've done all of this. And you can go back with all these examples. So it's brilliant what you're doing.
Thanks so much. And one message I do want to convey, at least from the learnings that we took from this industry, was that oftentimes when it comes to like what we call a serious design process, where there's a little tolerance for errors, typically what we find people will fall on two extreme ends of the spectrum. Either they'll exaggerate the power of GenAI and feel like their job security is being threatened, or they feel like AI is still just a toy today, right? So in which case they're undermining the power of GenAI. But I think somewhere in reality, the capability of GenAI is somewhere in between. It's certainly not going to replace human engineers in this case for various reasons, but purely for accuracy, we still need human engineers to collaborate closely with AI, and obviously there's a societal cost behind it because there's a liability. What if you build a building just purely following AI instructions, and what if the building collapsed? Like, whose legal liability will that be? So that's going to be another social quite a discussion for us to have in the longer term. But at least for now, AI is definitely not perfect. But I think sometimes just getting people's head around and understand, properly what AI is capable of doing today and what it's not able to do. Just having that very accurate understanding is still not there. So that's a lot of market
absolutely.
education
Those
that
are
we have
some
to
high
do.
stakes as well that you're looking at, and you're so right. There's the unknown about who would be responsible at the end of the day, and that's why human
Exactly.
intervention is so critical, because sometimes it can take you months to do this work, and if AI can do it in a few minutes, at least you've got the foundation, and it will take you a few weeks to go through it all instead of the months it will take you to do it from scratch. So it does
Exactly.
take out a lot of that heavy lifting as well.
Exactly. So, I mean, like, I will say that even though AI is not really destined to replace human in this case, it doesn't mean it's not useful, right? So, like you said, they can save people from those manual tasks so that they can focus their attention on either more complex building designs or on the more meaningful design decisions along the way. So, that's a better use of human time in my opinion. So we'll just let AI helping us do the mundane work, and then we'll leverage the human creativity to do all the good stuff for the society and for humanity.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more there. So when companies launch something innovative like your structural co-pilot, a common breakdown is poor internal alignment. And whether that's go to market, whether it's your sales, the onboarding, etc. How have you avoided that kind of misstep as you scale communication and adoption internally?
For our clients, I will say there are always the tech savvy groups. The strategy that we're taking is to influence the early adopters first, and then we're driving for organizational changes if the early adopters are satisfied with their experience. And typically, these are the people who are pretty good at spreading the words out if they find something really working. So we have been like I would say it's 80% of our leads that are converting are actually coming from referrals and organic channels. So that's the approach. We target the innovation team or target the early adopters within the organization, and then we let them drive the internal referrals and take a bit of a PLG approach, and then eventually we'll try to influence the organizational level of adoption of our solution.
Oh, that's great. One of the fastest ways change when implementing, one of the fastest ways that change derails is through silent friction. That's probably during processes or implementation tools, legacy systems, etc. Have
Right.
you run into those moments when scaling exposed inefficiencies that you just didn't expect, or doesn't it apply in this area?
Well, so I think in our case it's slightly different because our industry doesn't lack like piecemeal solutions. If
Mm-hmm.
you look at, we have multiple tools that are spanning across the workflow, the design tasks, right? So we have Bluebeams that are doing PDF markups, which a lot of engineers are using when they're doing preliminary design. We also have ETABS, SAP 2000s. These are structural analysis engines. We
Mm-hmm.
also have AutoCAD and Revit, of course. These are the modeling tools. But that said, there's no end-to-end automation that are custom to structural engineers' entire workflow. So we are building that end-to-end automation solution for structural engineers. By doing that, we're certainly not reinventing the wheel by creating another file format that just not what our value proposition is. The problem that we are solving is the source of data issue. So we are solving the parts that require manual inputs across multiple platforms, and we're connecting them either with AI or with just programmatic approaches. That approach just allows us to achieve end-to-end automations all the way. So the way our technology is designed is very much mimicking the human engineering's current workflow today, but
Mm-hmm.
we're actually connecting their piecemeal solutions all together by internalizing a lot of them within our tech stack. So we'll let's say for example, we'll use Genia for structural layouts. We have our own structural analysis engine that are incorporating final element analysis into the design process. We
Mm-hmm.
also spit out the structural drawings in the format of AutoCAD file or Revit files. We're leveraging existing infrastructure, but we're solving the end-to-end data issue all the way.
Very interesting. If you're leveraging the internal infrastructure of the company's tech stack, do you then have to integrate the infrastructure into your tech stack?
From data format wise, yes, because CED files are CED files, right? Revit files
Yeah.
are Revit files. These are industry standards file formats. But that said, when it comes to supporting customization, when it comes to supporting or integrating internally with their own systems, we do provide quite a lot of flexibility. I do want to point out though, a lot of the structural engineering consulting firms, they don't really have the capability of software development. It's only the larger ones, I'd say AECOM, WSP, really the industry leaders who are big enough and can afford a software team. In that case, we can provide custom or private deployment if they want to have certain set of training data set that they don't want to expose into the public version of our model. Then we'll go for that approach. If let's say one of our customers, Suffolk Construction, they do have a software team, and in that particular case, they're pretty certain that they want to provide a product with their own interface. So in that case, we're providing our capabilities in the format of APIs. That's also another route that we have taken so far. So, but ultimately, like our business model at the end of the day is still consumption based. So whether we're just providing the drawings itself or we're providing APIs, we're delivering our capabilities through a set of program interfaces, regardless of which approach that we're taking. We're still delivering we're still charging our clients by the usage.
Oh, that's really good. And so also, really, you are offering bespokeness depending on what they want and how big the company is as well. And that's so important because not everything is the same instance.
Exactly.
It might be, but you are still offering bespokeness. So therefore, if anyone's to reach out to you guys, I think they should. So you can speak about their own individual needs as well.
Absolutely.
Sometimes companies choose the wrong external partners, or they onboard the external partners far too late. What have you learned about working with vendors or advisors during moments of rapid change? And what's gone wrong in the past if you use external providers?
One good example that we always cite is our collaboration with some of the industry-leading material suppliers. Weyerhaeuser being the most significant one that we have been collaborating in the past. So Weyerhaeuser, because we started off by designing timber structures. Weyerhaeuser being one of the largest industry leader of engineering timber provider out there, they do have a software called ForteWeb, which is considered as the golden standards for timber software analysis. So at that time, we did have a option whether we should build something internally or we can just reach out to Weyerhaeuser and collaborate with them. We actually tried the internal approach first, and then later we realized just purely having the ForteWeb logo on our calculations means quite a lot because that's already considered as industry standards. It will save a lot of time for our customers to evaluate our calculation solutions. Not really that we cannot build a similar technology, but let me actually put a caveat on that because and later when we talked to Weyerhaeuser, we actually figured out that we really cannot because there are certain secret information that Weyerhaeuser possess because they actually build 12 labs all over the North American countries, and what they're doing inside those labs is that they're breaking the timber product that they build, and then they're obtaining testing data all the way. So that level of knowledge about the timber product that they build is really beyond our capability of possession, or really beyond our knowledge. So in that regard, to achieve the same level of accuracy, we won't be able to do that internally. So, but we actually chose to collaborate with Weyerhaeuser for a very different reason. We think it will actually save our customers time when it comes to evaluating and understanding our calculation results. So that's why we work with them, and we actually never regret it. It's probably the best decision that happened in our tech stack.
Strategic move for sure. But you mentioned that they were based only like in America, and you mentioned that you're also across in like Singapore and Canada. Can you use it for other parts of the world, or is it only North America?
Canada and the US use Weyerhaeuser product quite often. In Singapore, Europe, and also Middle Eastern countries, most of the buildings are actually built in concrete, so it will be very much different than North America. But when it comes to supporting different building types in our technology stack, the FEAs, the structural analysis engine, the technology going into that will be very different. But from a layout standpoint, we can just feed in different building layout formats as the training data sets, and then that will improve the AI performance specific to each type of buildings. So it won't take us too much effort when it comes to supporting additional building types.
Brilliant. Well, as you look towards the next stage of growth for Genia, I'd love to zoom out for one moment. Where would you like your company to be over the next 6 to 12 months?
Right. So for the next 6 to 12 months, it's all going to be about expansion. So we're working with the leading developer in Europe to roll out a concrete building. It's going to be about 5 to 6 stories apartment buildings, ranging from 150 units to 200 units. So we're supporting them on the concrete superstructure design. So that's going to be an exciting international expansion effort. We're also collaborating with a leading general contractor in Saudi Arabia to enter the Middle Eastern market. It's quite a big market nowadays, which anybody working in construction tech cannot ignore. So proving our capability to expand across internationally, and also proving our capability to design buildings that are beyond timber structures to do like steel frames and concrete structures. Those are going to be the critical pivotal points for our growth in the next 12 months, I would say.
That's excellent. I'd love to see where you go in the next couple of years. I definitely think you're going places. So tell me, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing right now?
Quite frankly, it's mostly hiring because we work with AI. We also work with structural engineers. Unfortunately, the job market is going a little bit hyped up. Unfortunately, we're seeing like 100 million signing bonuses, coming up very recently. So, being a startup, and being able to compete with these, gigantic tech companies for the same AI talents is going to be challenging. So that's why like we're hopefully demonstrating our or by showing our vision of how AI is going to be transformative to the building world. We're hopeful to attract top AI talents who typically are not really aware of the opportunities in the real estate market. But also by our founding team, by the passion that we share, and also by the sheer volume of the market, hopefully we can attract also top AI talents in this field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all the best there. It's definitely a very common thing that I'm noticing across quite a few companies about finding the right talent. And they're also saying that that's one of the biggest pain points at the moment as well. So if you could solve one issue today, any issue, with like a snap of a finger, what would it be?
If it's just that easy, I would just say let's make the world return to peace, right? So, we are. I would say we are like. I don't believe we're actually at the historical lowest point, but we're definitely getting closer to that. So with regard to all the technological advancements and all that kind of stuff, I think maintaining a world level peace is super critical. Like people don't think this is something necessary until there are a couple of wars going on in the world, right? So that's such a necessity for anybody who's running a business, and in order for us to prosper, this is good for economic development and also for humanity in general. So
Absolutely,
that's
especially
just
with
what
AI, the world is getting smaller and smaller. So.
Exactly. I think it used to be connected worldwide, but then nowadays is I don't know, things seems to be a little bit more segmented than before. So
Gia, it's been such an insightful conversation and wonderful to have you on board. But before we wrap up, is there one piece of advice that you'd give to any other founder or teams that are trying to drive meaningful change inside a high growth business?
I would say be customer obsessed. I used to work at Amazon. Customer obsession is the top one leadership principles at the organization. So I'm a firm believer in that principle. So if you want to drive real changes, you got to understand what your customers are dealing with. So being absolute customer obsessed is super critical because you need understanding of the customer pain points, and also it takes a lot of customer obsession to deliver a great customer experience.
Absolutely. I love that. Love that response. So finally, if listeners want to learn more about Genia or connect with you, where's the best place to do so?
Just go to our website, genia.design. So my calendar is directly on the website. If you click on book a demo, that will go directly onto my personal calendar. So I look forward to connecting with all prospective clients. If there's any way that we can support your projects, do let us know. We do want to run pilots and see how it goes on your projects.
It's absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Gia, for your time. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you so much.